Fantastic. Okay, so again, welcome everyone to my lightning talk. Anthony Buer, coordinator for distance learning projects at OTAN, as Rachel introduced me. So just a little bit of background on OTAN. OTAN is one of three state leadership projects for adult education in California. We focus on technology training for adult educators around the state. We also have a fantastic website at otan.us. Many or most of the resources that are on the OTAN website are freely available to you no matter where you are in the United States. Even if you're outside of California, you can come and take a look and see what we have on the OTAN website. Lots of things to share with all of you, and we really are happy to share these resources with folks around the country, no matter your adult education setting. So what I would like to do first is actually do a quick survey. So if you have like a phone or other mobile device, if you want to go ahead and scan that QR code, Justine also popped the link to the survey directly in the chat. So I'd like for folks just to take a minute, because I only have 25, to do the survey. I think there are four multiple choice questions followed by one narrative question. So I'll give you a few seconds to finish that survey. And I'm gonna show the results here in a second as people are I'll give you a little time to scan and then get into the survey. I'll just say one of the things about the survey, it's a Microsoft form. So if you use Google Forms, this is the Microsoft equivalent of a Google form. And you may notice as you're completing the Microsoft form that next to all of the questions, there's a little icon. It looks like an open book with a speaker in front of it. That is the Microsoft Immersive Reader. So if you're not familiar with immersive readers, it's a great tool for ESL or ESOL students, maybe adult basic ed or adult literacy students who are still getting comfortable with the language. Students or users can open up that immersive reader. The immersive reader will read the text as the person, the reader will read aloud the text as the person is reading the text on the screen or on the page. So it's a great way to kind of reinforce language skills as the students or users are taking the survey. So I'm going to go ahead and just exit out of my slide here for a second and switch us over to the results here. Of course, fade to black. Here we go. The nice thing about oh, that's an interesting view. The nice thing about let's see if this works. There we go. The nice thing about the results here is that they are coming in real time. So again, if you do a Google form or Microsoft form, we'll be able to get the results in real time here. All right, so it looks like first question, are you familiar with WIPPEA lesson plan format? So about 70% of folks are no. Okay, good. Uh, Next question is, are you familiar with the triple E? So just over half no, but actually this is an encouraging result. Usually it's not as many folks yes or somewhat. So happy to see that we have some folks who actually know what triple E is. Fantastic. Let's look at the next question here. Have you ever used a generative AI tool such as ChatGPT, Claude, Google Gemini, etc.? So only a few folks say no to that. We have some familiarity with the 16% or so, but about 75% says yes more than a few times. Okay, good. The next question here. Are you using AI for your instructional or administrative work at your agency? So about 20% no. About half of the folks say sometimes, and then we have about a third of the folks who say yes. So probably, more than sometimes, maybe a little bit more regularly. Great. Okay, and then the last question here is, if yes or sometimes, what AI tools are you using and for what purposes? Okay, so some of the usual suspects here: ChatGPT or Copilot, lesson plans, ChatGPT, Gemini, TurboScribe, Diffit, Canva, mainly for lesson planning. Great. ChatGPT, blah blah blah, Claude, Copilot, Perplexity, Notebook LM, Site AI. Oh, interesting. Never heard of that one. Curapod, Diffit. Okay, Copilot. Okay, fantastic. Great. Okay, so thank you so much. Gives me a good sense as to kind of who's in the room and what you're familiarity is with some of the things that we're going to talk about today. All right, so let's continue on here. Sorry, things are loading a little slowly here. Okay, so this is my plan for the lightning talk here. Lots of bullets here, but basically this is how I'm going to proceed. So I want to just talk about briefly WIPPEA and EEE. Then I want to tell you about two tools that we have on the OTAN website, the Lesson Plan Builder and our Teaching with Technology database. And then as Rachel mentioned, I am going to talk a little bit about AI and lesson planning. And then the goal really for me today is for you to be able to take one of the tech tools that you hear about and start using it in your agency. Okay, so here's a quick introduction to WIPPEA. So WIPPEA is a lesson planning model. It's been around for a number of years. And here are the 6 major components of WIPPEA. So warm-up, introduction, presentation, practice, evaluation, and application. If we look at this lesson planning model in a different way, think of it kind of in a circular wheel type of model here. So again, we see the same components, warm up and review, followed by an introduction, followed by presentation, followed by practice, followed by an evaluation, either formative or summative, and then an application. How are we going to use what we learned about in the lesson today? You'll also notice these evaluation arrows that sort of are around the wheel. And this is meant to represent formative assessment, really where you can plug formative assessment into many different parts of your lesson plan. And then you have an objective, which is basically kind of the core of what is going to be happening that day in the class. So that's a very basic introduction to WIPPEA. The other thing I wanted to kind of start with is just a brief discussion of the EEE framework. You may have heard of other frameworks like TPAC or SAMR. EEE is another framework. Basically, the focus of EEE is on the 3 E's, EEE, hence the name: engaging, enhancing, and extending learning. Really, the idea with EEE is that we start with learning, good teaching and learning first, and we think about how to use technology in very intentional ways that support the teaching and learning. So again, here's another view of EEE in sort of this Venn diagram presentation. So again, engagement, enhancement, and extension. The sweet spot in the middle is EEE. It's not often that we hit all 3 E's in a lesson, but really the goal is to try to include as many of the E's as possible when you are doing your lesson planning. So those are very basic introduction to WIPPEA and EEE, but I wanted to introduce those first because what I'm going to talk about next is continually referring to both WIPPEA and the EEE. So the first of the 2 tools I want to introduce you to on the OTAN website is our Lesson Plan Builder. Again, anybody in any location, anywhere can create an account for the Lesson Plan Builder. So you'll come to kind of this landing page for the Lesson Plan Builder. And the way to get there, I think Justin will add a link to the chat to get there. If you want to go to that directly, you're going to go to the OTAN website, you're going to select resources, and then you're going to select Lesson Plan Builder. Justine put a direct link in the chat for that. Thank you very much. One thing I do want to point out about the Lesson Plan Builder is that anybody anywhere can create an account on our builder, but also I'd like for people to think about, not just for this tool, but for many different tools, creating like a department account that a number of different people can access. So for example, think about if you have an ESL or ESOL department at your agency, what if you created like an ESL department account where you were all adding lessons to the Lesson Plan Builder? You're building something that's much larger than what any one person could create. So just something to keep in mind about that. When you log into your account, you're going to have this left side menu, My Lessons, New Lesson, and Log Off. So you will initially see any lessons that you've already created under My Lessons. You can always go back and edit those lessons even after you've created them, or you could start with something brand new, a new lesson. So if you do start with a brand new lesson, it's going to give you a couple of preparation pages, starting with just some basic information about the lesson itself. So you're going to start with that. You're also going to add your outcomes. In our lesson plan builder, we refer to CASAS competencies. So if you know what CASAS is, and then we also refer to the College and Career Readiness Standards, the CCRS. So you're able to access or add those directly to your lessons so that you kind of keep those in mind as you're creating the rest of your lesson. I just wanted to show you the first of the 6 WIPPEA pages. This is the warm-up page. So again, and then the remaining pages will go through the other WIPPEA elements. So you're going to go ahead and start by filling all of that out. And you may notice at the very bottom of the slide that you also have the opportunity to check one or more of the triple E boxes. So this is also a way for you to think about how you are intentionally adding technology to your lesson, no matter what part of the lesson that you're in. So again, we see WIPPEA and triple E at the foundation of our lesson plan builder. Okay, so that was a very brief introduction to the first of the tools, our lesson plan builder. The second tool that I want to tell you about is our Teaching with Technology tool. This is an online database of technology-based lesson plans. So again, we could, I suppose any repository out there could include thousands and thousands of lesson plans. That is not really the intention of our Teaching with Technology database. The goal here is to add lesson plans that thoughtfully incorporate technology into the lesson plans and have those be a part of our database. The lessons that you will see there, you can either use them as is, you can modify them for your situation. And again, at the foundation of our lessons, we have WIPPEA and triple E included. So I think Justine is going to pop a link in the chat to the TWT database directly, but again, you're going to go to the OTAN website. And again, under that resources tab, scroll down to the Teaching with Technology and go ahead and open that up. So when you come to our Teaching with Technology tool, again, you're going to get this left side menu that will be your starting point. So there are a number of ways to search for the lessons in TWT. You can do it, and let me walk through the pages here. So the first is that you could search by program area. So we include 6 different program areas in the TWT, so including adult basic ed or what you might know as adult literacy, ESL or ESOL. We include both high school equivalency prep and high school diploma under ASE. I know every state maybe is a little bit different. We have CTE lessons, and then we have a few adults with disability lessons as well. You can also search by the CCRS. So if you're familiar with the categories, most of them have to do with language, but there's also a math category as well. So you can search by those. You can also search by subject as well. So the nice thing about searching by subject is that it cuts across program areas. So think about a broad category or subject like employment. So maybe you'd want to use it in your ESL class, but you might also want to use it like in an ABE or ASE class as well. So this might be another way to search for that. Another way to search is also just to do a keyword search. And if you happen to be on the TWT and you'd like to follow along with this lesson that I'm going to show you more about, just in the keyword box, go ahead and type SONGR, so Songer, SONGR, and this specific lesson should come up. The initial search results, you just have to make sure you click on the lesson that you're interested in so that you can actually see the components of that lesson. All right, so I'm going to do kind of just a quick walk through a typical lesson that we have on the TWT database, starting with the Song R, Write a Song with AI lesson. So you'll get kind of this initial, excuse me, these initial details about the lesson itself. This quick links menu is actually a floating menu, so it's going to follow you as you scroll through the page. In case you want to go to any one of these components directly. So you'll get some initial details, kind of, where was the website where you'll initially start, maybe some of the technology that you'll need as a part of your lesson. We include a little bit of preparation. So these are the steps that you need to take to kind of get started with the lesson, get your components together. We do a how-to. So if you're not familiar with the particular tech tool, this will give you kind of a basic introduction on how to get started with the tech tool itself. We include some information about the program area, and then within like ESL, for example, we also specify the levels. But again, think of these lessons as sort of model lessons that you might be able to adapt for your program area, even if you're not working within the program area that's specified here. So then we're going to walk through, or you're going to go through each of the WIPPEA components. You'll also notice if and where a triple E, um, one of the E's is also referenced here as well. So again, a little bit about a warm up, followed by an introduction, followed by the presentation portion of the lesson, followed by some ideas about how to practice with your students, and then how to close with an evaluation and application. Again, making reference to those triple E components as well. Any kind of documents or handouts that you might need are also included. We also refer to the CCRS that we think are that are hit on during the lesson here. And then finally, we have some information about licensing and such. Just one thing about this particular license, I don't think this is actually correct. The correct license, we're actually doing some discussion about licensing of OTAN resources back in the office here. But we will include the license that will basically allow you to use this and adapt this for classroom use. Okay, and again, on your own or maybe in the breakout, we'll spend a little bit of time diving into TWT if people want to take a look at that a little more closely. Okay, so those are the two OTAN resources that I wanted to tell you about, the Lesson Plan Builder and our TWT database. I want to talk a little bit about AI, and it seems like there's already a lot of AI familiarity in the room, which is great. So this list of AI tools that you see here on the right-hand side of the slide, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Copilot, CanMigo, and Diffit, seems like there's already kind of some basic familiarity with these tools. So what I was thinking here is that maybe as I'm going to walk through the next couple of slides talking about prompting, you can open up if you already have your AI account open, go ahead and open it up, maybe start a new chat or a new chat. If you don't have any familiarity with AI tools, you can actually go directly to gemini.google.com or copilot.microsoft.com. Justine put those links in the chat for you, and you can actually just start an AI prompt on either one of those tools. At OTAN, and I'm sure in other locations, we get asked, well, which AI tool do you recommend? At OTAN, we actually try to be tool agnostic, so we don't really recommend one tool over the other. I think I'll just say that at OTAN, we're very much into experimenting with different tools right now. We do lots of AI trainings for folks here in California, and we're using all different kinds of tools in our training. So I wouldn't necessarily say to limit yourself to one tool. You might want to kind of play around with different tools and see where it takes you. So. Okay, so I do want to just briefly talk about this prompt framework. Now, if you have any experience with prompting already in AI, you probably use a format or a framework that has fewer elements to it, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 elements. I think Rachel actually in her lightning talk is gonna reference one. There are lots of prompt frameworks that are out there. This one has 10, and I would say that really this is meant to be kind of like if you're not really familiar with prompting, or even if you have been prompting for a while, but sometimes you don't always consider all of the different things that might go into like a lesson plan prompt, for example. So we've kind of pulled apart the elements here just to kind of give you a sense as to all the things that you could be putting into your prompt. I think in time, a lot of these things probably would end up under context anyway. But really, this is just meant to be kind of illustrative as to all the things that you might consider. So I'm going to kind of quickly go through these. So again, the first thing is to think about a role or persona for AI. Here's a sample. So like you are a curriculum expert, or you are an ESL teacher, or you work with a certain population. So all of those things are possible for the role. The action or the task, this is usually where the recommendation is to include action verbs. So really when it comes down to what is it that you want the AI to do? Okay, so in this case, we want the AI to create like a lesson plan, for a particular subject or program area on a particular subject. This is what I think is maybe the most important component is really the context, right? We want the AI to really understand like what's happening in your classroom with your student population. So this is just an example. We have some students who are ready for this lesson, some students are behind. However, the lesson needs to be engaging and keep all students focused on the learning goal. But I think a lot of the things we're going to talk about here in a sec, probably you can fold into context because all of those really describe your particular classroom situation or your learning environment. Okay, what is the level? What's the basic level of the lesson? Introductory, review. How much time will this lesson take? Are there any like standards or learning goals that you want to be referenced in the lesson plan? So here we're talking about, we're doing a lesson on fractions. So we're looking at the CCRS on the fractions. I'm not a math person, so that's all I'm going to say about it. What kinds of activities do you think would be really good to include in this lesson? And there are lots of different activity ideas. So you may consider, you may put some of those ideas into your prompt. It would be good to talk about the technology that you have available to you. Any accommodations, maybe you have some students who have learning disabilities or they have some sort of physical disabilities that also need to be considered, so put those in. And then finally, think about the format. So this might be a good place to make a reference to WIPPEA, right? You would like a lesson plan that basically kind of follows that WIPPEA format. Make sure first that AI knows what WIPPEA is. It's not talking about some other WIPPEA that's out there. I haven't found another WIPPEA, but there might be another one out there floating around in the universe. So this is kind of what you're left with. You're left with kind of a very long prompt. It's sort of the opposite of Googling, right? Googling has gotten to the point where it's basically now phrases. We want something that's very thorough. We want something that's going to consider many different things to create a lesson plan. So I'm just going to escape here for a second and switch over to, hopefully this will come up directly. So I put this prompt right in Microsoft Copilot. So I just took that prompt as is. Here's what I got back. I got back kind of a good starting point. I got a learning goal. And then I got each of the WIPPEA steps. I didn't ask the AI to tell me like how much time should I spend on each step, but it came back with this, which I think is really helpful. So I can see the warm up, I can see the intro, I can see the presentation, I can see the practice, I can see the evaluation, and I can see the application, and then some considerations for accommodations. And then would you like me to do any further refining? So you can continue the conversation. I'll just say one thing that I found really exciting about this thing that this result that came back was in the practice. So those of you who are familiar with like stations or station rotation, I was kind of thinking about this and thinking, oh my goodness, like this is actually kind of the seed of station rotation, which again, I didn't really ask for, but it's like, oh, like this is really good. Like this, I don't really, for example, like if I don't have a lot of experience or I don't know about station rotation or I've never used it in my classroom, um, this is actually pretty good. Like I could actually maybe get started with this. Like this gives me some good ideas about what to do. And I was thinking about how just because I've been to a lot of conferences lately and how, we get lots of ideas. We go to these webinars and we go to these conferences and we get lots and lots of ideas. And it's like, oh my God, well, I've never used these things before. Like, where do I even get started, right? So why not throw some of those ideas into your prompting and say, for example, like with this particular lesson plan, like, okay, give me some ideas about how to set up stations in my classroom when it comes to the practice part, right? I mean, that's just one idea, but let's bring those ideas into the prompting and get some ideas about, get some suggestions about how we might start introducing some of these things that we learn about in our regular practice. So, okay, so that's kind of just lesson prompting in a nutshell. I just also want to refer to a couple of tools in particular where we're starting to see the lesson plan feature built into the tool directly. So some of you mentioned Magic School. When you create your Magic School account, you get this access to like a number of different tools here, but you may notice almost right in the center of the slide here, the lesson plan feature or the lesson plan tool that's available within Magic School. Another tool that we're experimenting with at OTAN is School AI. Again, over here on the right-hand side, we have it circled. Let's write a lesson plan. So when you come to the next page, you get this kind of basic format. I will say, like with Magic School, School AI, it doesn't give you like a lot of boxes. So you kind of have to figure out where to put the right, where to put the information, right? I would say probably in this additional details box is where you're going to put like most of that prompt that we just looked at because there aren't other places really to put this. So, and we all know the dilemma with grades, right? Very often adult education or adult learners is not an option. So sometimes we have to sort of figure out, well, what level of students are we talking about here? So unfortunately, the world doesn't know about the greatness of adult education. So oftentimes we have to kind of pick and choose. But otherwise, a topic, that fractions topic is basically with the topic, and then most of that prompt is going to go into this box right here. One other tool that we're looking at over at OTAN is Diffit that some of you also mentioned. So I haven't found like a lesson plan tool in Diffit yet, but there's a lot of other things that I might be able to use within Diffit itself to get at the same result. So all right, so I think I'm at the end. I'm sorry, Rachel, I'm a few minutes over. But basically, just again to review, we talked a bit about WIPPEA, we talked about the EEE framework, and again at OTAN, we're really trying to use this at the foundation of the work and the resources that we're building over here. So again, when you look at our lesson plan builder, when you look at our teaching with technology tool, you'll see direct reference to WIPPEA and EEE. And then we talked a little bit about AI prompting and a few tools out there. Hopefully, you have some ideas. Maybe one of the tools we talked about today, you'll be able to bring back to your agency. And again, just to close from OTAN, please visit our website, otan.us. Reach out to me directly. Lots and lots of things to share with you all.